Hey guys, welcome back. Our second video in discussing rational choice, and in this one, we are going to kind of bridge between theories of everyday life and integrative or integrative theories that we're going to talk about next week. Integrative theories are theories that take a look at what is happening at the micro level of individual actors and small scale interactions, and bridge that with the stuff that we focused on at the very beginning of the course, where we were talking about these big social structure things like the division of labor, the collective consciousness, those and bureaucracy, those level of things. So the work that we've done this week has been about symbolic interactionism and dramaturgy and ethnomethodology, exchange theory as well, and obviously rational choice, but it's all been about, these individual actors or very, very small groups, and what is a sociological theory that would work. And what we've talked about, and kind of interesting to me, is that they all focus on slightly different elements of human nature, which is, I tried to make this point in the last video, that's fine. You don't have to say everything about human nature in order to say something important about human nature. And so our theorists have dealt with different aspects of it. James Coleman is the theorist that we're going to focus on today, who has he is a rational choice theorist, but he wrote a paper. It was actually an address to the American Sociological Association, his presidential address, and he called it the Rational Reconstruction of Society. So in this, he is going to make an argument that again, not that rational choice is a complete version of human nature, a complete model of human nature, but that it gets the most important thing for us if we care about making society a better place. Okay, so to be clear, he's not saying this is all there is to human beings. He's saying, and I don't even know that he's saying it is the most important thing to about human beings. What he's saying is it's the most useful thing if we want to make society a better place. So, let's get into it. He said, so his theory, interestingly, it'd kind of be great if this class was only a 10-week course, because this ties us back to the stuff we were talking about the very first week. He said there was the Great Transformation that happened. It's a book that I alluded to way back when by Karl Polanyi about the change from an economy that was based on you kind of producing for yourself and became a society based on markets, that Adam Smith, like implementing Adam Smith's ideas. What James Coleman says is that brought a major change in the way human daily life was organized. And here is the key change. And you'll be able to see this. You'll say, yeah, that's right. He said, we changed from a life based on primordial organization. Primordial just means very, very old and kind of original. So a life based around the family and based around the community, maybe based around the local church. But those things that just sort of evolved into existence. We've changed because of the Great Transformation to a market economy. Our life no longer centers on those things. Instead, it centers on purposive organization. Organizations that become more central are things like schools, corporations, the government, things that are, and here's the key part, organizations that were purposefully created rather than that kind of evolved into existence with our species. Church probably doesn't quite fit in there, but purposive, you want to be thinking about corporations, you want to be thinking about schools, this sort of these organizations that were created specifically for a reason. So James Coleman said that's the reality that we live in now. And he said a major change happens to go along with that. The people who end up spending their time in these things become more rational. I'm not sure that he would make the argument that there's necessarily a causal arrow. It's probably multi-causal. People people became more rational as they wanted to make money, so they created these organizations, and these organizations then make people more rational. But whatever is happening, whichever way the causal arrows are going, we go from primordial organizations and irrational people to purposive organizations and rational people. So he says, living at the end of the 20th century when he's writing, we're living in a different reality. That's the reality that we have now, is organizations that we purposefully created and more rational people. And he says, here's the issue. We're going to go back to Durkheim just really, really briefly. Remember, Durkheim's view of human nature was that humans needed to be controlled in order to have fulfilling lives. You didn't have to buy it, but James Coleman kind of does. He says, so what we have at the end of the 20th century is an issue of kind of people being a little bit lost. They need more order in their lives. We need that order. And excuse me, and here's the problem. In where we were before, that order was filled by the family and by the community. And he said, like, it's easy to romanticize those things, but if you've ever lived in a small town where everybody's in your business, James Coleman says, it's not all that great. The social control that exists is through what he calls social capital. Social capital is usually used in a different context. It has to do with who you know and how connected you are. And we usually think about that as a good thing. In fact, next week we're going to talk about, I think with Pierre Bourdieu, we're going to talk about social capital as being something people can use. For James Coleman, he's thinking, well, this social capital was our means of social control. You were in a tight-knit community and people knew what you were doing, and you controlled yourself because you knew that people were watching you all the time. He said, though, that's not great. There's no freedom in that. It's a coercive way of social control. People are coercing you. They're looking at you and they are holding you accountable. He said it's not egalitarian. Boys and girls were held to different standards. Wealthier people were held to different standards than poorer people. And he said, because you were being coerced, it inhibited innovation as well. Because to go back to Zimmel, when we talked about how we are creative in lots of different ways, not just in Karl Marx's like labor theory of value way, but me making a joke at a random time, being spontaneous is creative. And James Coleman says, these primordial organizations with us being rooted together all the time, that's not going to make you a creative person. It's going to make you a coerced, controlled person. We need social control, he says, but this way wasn't that great via social capital. So he says, look, we have a new reality of rational people in organizations that are purpose-built. What is a kind of control that we can exert here? And a kind that's better than exertion through social capital, coercion, and things that are not equal. What could we do better? So here is his idea. And I'm going to tell you, when I heard this the first time, I was bothered, like in a deep way, bothered. And you may be bothered too. And I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't be, but I am going to tell you you might want to hear him out. All right, here's what he says. Let me scroll down. He says, all right, here's my idea for creating a new form of social control. My idea is to reconstruct society based on rational choice. Simple. People are not purely rational choice creatures, but we do have that kernel of truth in us, and we could use it. Here's what he says. If instead of coercing people to do the right thing, we set up a society-wide system of rewards rooted in these purposive organizations, rooted in schools, rooted in government, rooted in corporations. we set up a system of rewards that is society-wide to control people. That way, we are building a system of social control based on rational choice, because people have the choice to go pursue the rewards if they want to, and it's not coercive, and it is something that will allow people to help themselves. If you're getting rewarded for doing well in school, or doing well in your job, or being a good citizen, like you're being controlled by doing pro-social things. That's not too bad. All right, here's his idea, and here is where he lost me when I was younger, but I don't think he loses me anymore. He said, all right, this is how we do it. First of all, we need lots of sociologists, so that's great. What we need to do is make statistical predictions based on demographics of what we think each kid that is born, okay? So born male, born white, born to a middle-class family, as I was. We take those demographics and any other ones that are relevant, and we say, what could we predict about this kid? When would this kid first get involved in trouble that would require state intervention, ending up, getting a ticket for underage drinking or whatever, or ending up in the juvenile justice system? When would we expect that to happen? Okay, we would expect that to happen at age 16. All right, so here's what we do. If this kid is not involved in the criminal justice system at age 16, we pay his parents. Parents will pay attention if they're going to get money for their kid doing the right thing. What grade point average would we expect for this kid to have in 5th grade, in 6th grade, in 7th grade, in 8th grade, in 9th grade, all the way through? Okay, if he meets that, we pay the parents. We pay them every step of the way in your life. And I know right now you're like, I don't like it, because it seems like we are just being paid for normal things. And James Coleman says, you know what? You're right. I don't know that I like it either, he says. But would it work? That's the question. Yes, it is not a rich and wonderful view of humanity, but would it work? If you were going to get paid $5,000 to make an A in this class, would you make an A in this class? The answer is, every time I've ever asked a student this, they've said, yeah, I would make an A in your class. I would bust it to make an A if there were thousands of dollars on the line. And that is something that we have been told we shouldn't want. And I don't know if we should or not. James Coleman didn't know if we should either. But what he did know is, are grades going to go up? Is the crime rate going to go down? Yeah, all of that is true. What we do, he says, to get, and importantly, it's not coercive, at least according to him. It is, what do I get out of it at the end by being controlled by the government to make straight A's all the way through high school and college? What I get is more educated. What we as a society get is a more educated person to take part in elections and to fill a high role in the economy, or to become an entrepreneur. All right, you can tell that I'm pretty motivated about this. That's it. That's the rational reconstruction of society. It struck some people as very, very cynical. Understandably, you're paying parents to do a good job parenting their kids, and eventually you're paying kids to take responsibility for their lives. And sure, ideally we wouldn't want that. But we haven't been doing that, and how are things working out? James Coleman would say, not great. We've got right now 1 in 5 kids in poverty, without enough to eat. Like, we could do better as a society, and the rational reconstruction at least has the advantage of being rewards-based and based on an element of human nature that we know exists. All right. So what he has done, just to end us, he's taken rational choice, that rational choice micro foundation, and he is suggesting a way of building society through organizations up to an incredible macro level, the full macro level. I like it. I don't know. I don't feel great about the fact that I like it, but I like it. In our next week's videos, we're going to see other attempts at not solving problems the way James Coleman did, but at we're going to see other efforts at taking a micro level and seeing if we can blow it up into a macro level. So I'll see you in those videos.